This week on the Too Heavy Wrestling Podcast.
Dude, I got an itch to get some content out.
Yeah, you were really upset when we didn't put on an episode last week. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Too Heavy Wrestling Podcast. Back again, I am Randy. We have Mr. Clayton Love, and we have Mr. Eddie, no last name. We're not going to give it to him. He doesn't get the satisfaction this time.
I like this.
First off, thank you for bearing with us as we ran into a couple issues. We did not release last week. We are making sure to come back and give you guys the lovely content that you are always clamoring for. I don't know about you guys, but I have dozens of fan letters that show up to my making sure that they know how we feel.
Dude, I got an itch to get some content out.
Yeah, you were really upset when we didn't put on an episode last week. So, a lot to catch up on because we missed a couple weeks. Don't look at each other like that. I'm trying to get us through this.
He just processed what you said.
No, I just looked at Eddie like he's a National Geographic topic, and I'm the photographer because he was doing some feral raccoon stuff, and I was just very confused.
I looked at him like he's one of my models and I'm painting him.
All right, anyways, I think we're here to talk about professional wrestling. So, a lot of things happened during the week that we were gone, and actually, I want to make sure that we give Eddie time to talk about the thing that I think will make him the happiest. But we wanted to start with Edge.
Yeah.
So let's start with Edge. All of the speculation around it. Last night he had his match with Sheamus. He went out on top. There were a lot of videos coming out about the promo that he cut afterwards when the cameras cut off about not sure the next time he'll be in Canada, and he's got to talk to his family about how much longer he's going to do this and all this stuff. A lot of people were speculating about that being an impromptu retirement match. There are a lot more people speculating about when his contract ends in September, where he might end up afterwards. So what are your guys' thoughts on that?
So I think out of all of it, the pre-match promo segment, the match itself, the post-match, the most important thing to focus on is within that post-match promo off TV, Edge, and I'm paraphrasing, said in so many words, but he did say these content of these words verbatim: there isn't another calendar year on my tires. So let's talk about the positive first. First off, if that's his last WWE match, you cannot ask for a better send-off. You go off on top, at home, actual home, not like when, say, they're in Boston and they say, we're in John Cena's hometown, when John Cena's actual hometown is West Newbury.
Right.
Like his actual hometown, on top, in Toronto Maple Leafs ring gear, getting the commemorative belt that is on WWE.com in the Toronto Maple Leafs colors given to him prior to
And
night.
and I think they were selling signed jerseys too.
So
there's an Edge jersey.
if you're a wrestler, regardless of if you have a situation that causes you to be out for almost a full decade, you cannot ask for a better send-off.
Yeah, I think most importantly, the match wasn't bad.
No.
That's what I was really worried about, because all of those circumstances aside, if the match itself is bad, then none of that other stuff matters. But it was good.
Wasn't he... I remember, I feel like last year, he said something about next time we're in Toronto around SummerSlam time.
Yeah.
It'll probably be my last match.
Yeah, I mean,
that's exactly what this is.
Yeah, he said that,
Exactly.
and that's why I think no one is surprised. Like,
Right.
of all the things we've seen so far, no one has been surprised that this is the speculation.
Mm-mm.
It's just that without him explicitly coming out and having a retirement speech, no one's taken it at face value, which I think is fair because wrestling is the absolute land of never say never.
Right.
True.
And Edge lived that very much.
To the gills, but this would be to me, let me make my point concise here. Edge is not in a position where he needs to give a retirement speech because he effectively did that. And you can't like recapture those emotions of that night. I think that's a huge reason why this send-off was the way that it was.
Yeah.
I think realistically, he's too big for, the cameo Royal Rumble spot.
Right.
He's too big for that. I legitimately think he does not want to invest time into a program of any length of time. So to me, the only path forward for Edge is he's done, but never formally retire so he can get that cushy, lifelong WWE role. Or, and this is like a super, 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 super small portion of the pie, but still a not 0% chance he has a match with Christian in AEW.
And that's a lot of what a lot of people are saying is that either he goes, the theories that I've read where he goes to AEW and either has a match with Christian or tag teams with Christian turns on him and then they feud it out for one last singles match or something along those lines.
So, kind of a point I want to bring up because you don't see it too much in WWE. It's like normally it's the same stipulation for singles runs and factions, where you may see, for example, Razor Ramon get inducted individually and then get inducted with the NWO. Do you think Edge and Christian's tag team run is worth having their own Hall of Fame induction?
Yes.
100%.
Do you think they'll actually do it?
Yes.
100%.
I hope so, dude. I'm like...
Here's the other thing about that. I am afraid that the induction of Edge and Christian into the Hall of Fame might get overshadowed by Edge's renaissance.
Right.
And I don't want that to be the case. I want it to be, here were the years that we were one of the greatest tag teams ever. Here's the accomplishments of that time. Here was our 1 or 2 reunion matches, and that's it. I don't want there to be 2 minutes of that speech where Christian has to look over it, whether it's warranted or deserved or not, because it would be deserved. But I don't want to have to listen to Christian go, but enough about our tag team. Let's talk about Edge coming back after 9 years. You're the most courageous person ever, blah, blah, blah. I don't need that.
Probably don't when he'd do that, though.
I know he would. And again, I don't even think it's undeserved. I think there is a time and place for Edge to get his flowers about what he did because it was arguably miraculous, but not during a speech where it's supposed to be about 2 people equally.
Right. No, I think with what they have both accomplished, in my opinion, if you watch some stuff on WWE or on Peacock, almost gave WWE app a free shout out, and they don't even freaking exist anymore. But
So good for its time. Continue.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think they're a top 5 tag team in the WWE's eyes.
Edge and Christian?
In my opinion, they are.
Well, Clayton, what do you think first?
So you're saying Edge and Christian is or is not a top 5 tag team?
I think they are.
He's saying
in the WWE, they're a top 5 tag team.
Okay.
He's saying he thinks they are, but he's also saying that WWE doesn't think.
They don't recognize them. They recognize the Hardys. They recognize the Dudleys. There's nothing wrong with those two. Those two absolutely are, in my opinion. But Edge and Christian were the guys who were beating them up and winning not beating them up, but winning all of these matches.
Yeah, but here's a very clear differentiator between Edge and Christian from the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys. Edge and Christian's years of activity are much longer,
right,
than the Hardys and the Dudleys, because realistically, the Dudley Boys were persona non grata within WWE for like almost 15 years.
Right.
The Hardys were not to that level, but weren't recognized on that level till they showed up at WrestleMania and
Right,
won
yeah.
the tag team titles. So for the lens that the WWE views things through, whether it's a faction, individual wrestler, tag team, they're not going to look at Edge and Christian the same way yet. 5 years from now, yes,
Okay.
they will look at Edge and Christian internally, externally in their video package, promotional material. They will view Edge and Christian within the same lane. Well, realistically, as soon as Christian's no longer active within AEW, I think this is going to happen.
Yeah.
It's a Vince McMahon mainstay. If you're somewhere else, I don't know you.
Yeah.
You don't exist.
I'm more concerned that Christian won't get an individual Hall.
I'm concerned about that too.
He's not.
I have been a peep since like 2002. Like when they split and everyone went Edge, I also went Edge, but I did not go Christian. Like I was a very big Christian fan for a long time.
I'm about to make a lot of people mad. The reason I don't see Christian getting inducted as a singles competitor, Christian is Chris Jericho without the accomplishments.
How
I don't know about that.
I think I see what you're saying.
Promo skills,
Yeah.
equitable.
Yeah.
Chris Jericho has all the major accomplishments and being a Grand Slam champion. If Christian does not get that in a light pity world title run,
I think that lowered his stock, if I'm going to be honest.
yeah, I'm not. That's what I mean by pity title run. Like
Yeah.
that's without that, he doesn't have a world title run
Right.
within WWE. He doesn't have either a large collection of mid-title wins
Right.
or a substantial reign or a substantial cumulative amount of days. So if you weren't really a main event person, you didn't really own the mid card either.
Right.
I don't see how you get in, because the things that he did for the company aren't going to be recognized on a level, say, Billy Gunn has a better shot of getting into the WWE Hall of Fame as an individual competitor than Christian.
I disagree with that.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
I
too.
disagree with that because I think here's my thing about the WWE Hall of Fame. The WWE Hall of Fame pretends like it's the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame. And the reason why I say that is because you have people in the WWE Hall of Fame as wrestlers that have never had a match in WWE
Correct.
or have had less than 5. Like for instance, if you look at, and granted,
Liger's one of those
Jushin
people.
Thunder Liger was one of them, but also if you look at Sting, granted, because WWE bought WCW, you could consider his entire WCW library, but if you take that for what it is and separate it, Sting's WWE record is like what, 2-6 or something like that. He has a very bad record,
Right.
and he never won a belt. So if you really wanted to compare it like that, Christian has a way better shot of entering as a singles competitor than Sting does, if you want to go by accomplishment. Now, the reason why I say that part about WWE pretending that it's the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame is because they actually do sometimes recognize people's out of WWE accomplishment. So when you look at Christian being a 2-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion, I think 2 times. When you look at him being a TNA or Impact World Champion, like he has good outside of WWE accolades that can be considered, especially if you also look at that WWE ECW run, because that was really good.
Right. I don't think that there are a lot of people from WWE ECW who they're just not going to be recognized in that. Like, I mean, RVD is an exception because he did in WWE and ECW.
He was an
And-
ECW original. That's
yeah, he's
different.
an ECW original. He did loads of accomplishments. They're
I mean,
probably
he's
not
already
going.
in the Hall of
Yeah, they're probably not going to put any ECW guys in the Hall of Fame. Just like
that didn't get WWE time. You mean?
right. I mean, the only people I could see actually doing that. Terry Funk's already in it,
Yeah,
so
they're
he
not.
already did that.
You're
Yeah.
saying they're not gonna put in like Sandman.
They're not going to put in Sandman. They're probably not going to put in Tommy Dreamer. They probably won't put in Sabu.
Tommy Dreamer would have the
Sabu.
best shot out of those three of those.
100%.
Honestly, the only person in the old ECW that I could actually see getting that, even higher than Tommy Dreamer, in my opinion, is Taz. And I don't think that's ever going to
Taz
happen.
hates WWE.
Yeah,
Not only
exactly.
does Taz hate WWE, but there's a not 0% chance that if Taz does get inducted to the Hall of Fame, it's as a comment.
Right. And again, like Tommy Dreamer had the best chance, and then
100%.
there was some other crap that happened on the side to where that probably will never happen.
Well, here's I kind of want to segue a little bit to one of the other topics that we
Right.
Yep.
If we want to talk about ECW originals that did make it into the Hall, have Rey Mysterio, who is now the United States champion.
Right.
So, Eddie, I want to give you this platform to talk about Austin Theory and what we might call the downfall.
Look.
All right.
You can be from Atlanta all you want. That's the only thing I can say
you
about
could have a gimmick that says
you
are from
can
Atlanta.
be from Atlanta all you want. Okay. In my opinion, Rey Mysterio didn't need the win. Like, obviously, he didn't need the win. He's really there to enhance other people at this point, which he has openly admitted. It's nice that he got a title. I'm not happy. It's not like I'm unhappy about that. I'm glad he took it off Austin Theory. Great job.
I believe he's the second person to win the United States title after being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Do you remember who the first?
Oh, you're gonna have to give me Bret Hart. Bret Hart. Yeah.
People want to forget about Bret Hart's 2014
Yeah.
United States title run, and I don't blame them. But
Right.
we'll move on.
I will say, Santos could really benefit from that title, even though I don't think they would have pushed him properly. Him
No.
holding a belt and showing his, like, just his wrestling prowess that he was able to show in every other company and in NXT that he hasn't been able to show up on the main roster. So I thought he would have really been able to benefit, but you're really just a placeholder for LA Knight, in my opinion.
That's what I was thinking, is that they'll use him as enhancement talent.
Right. Yeah. But it's not like, so the other topic comes up, was Rey Mysterio inducted too early?
Yeah, and I actually, so I wanted to specifically talk about, did Rey Mysterio get inducted too early into the Hall of Fame? Because, and people used to give me crap about this, I also thought Edge got inducted. But we'll talk about Rey Mysterio first.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you guys, because my opinion is yes. Do you think Rey Mysterio got inducted into the Hall of Fame too early?
Yes.
Well, I'm going to answer your question with a question for both of you. Are you only saying yes because he's still actively wrestling?
I'm saying yes because I think there are other people in line who have waited long enough to get that position to be inducted.
So, is that I don't want to push back on that just yet if you're not finished with your point.
It's not like he doesn't deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
He has all of the accolades and credentials to where he could be in the Hall of Fame. As a front runner, I'm still not too sure about that, if I'm going to be brutally honest, but it's not like he didn't deserve it. I just thought there are more people who are more deserving that could have been that front runner or been in the Hall of Fame this year.
That's not my reason.
So let me hear yours before, and I'll just respond.
My
to both of you.
reasoning is almost exactly what you said. It's because he's still an active competitor. To that point, though, while I do think you can be an active competitor and be in the Hall of Fame, that's just not in my head what that natural progression is. In my head, the timeline of a professional wrestler should be your startup, whether it's because the landscape has changed, whether it's the independents or the NXT or whatever. You start on the main roster, enhancement talent or upper mid card, whatever. You go through your mid card phase, you go through your main event phase. That should be the bulk of your career, hopefully. Or you fluctuate between main event, mid card, main event, go through your retirement, a year or 2 or 3 or more, however long it takes, then Hall of Fame should be your penultimate like moment as a professional wrestler. It should be your ultimate and last accomplishment. And the reason I think that is because if you do anything of importance or significance after you're inducted into the Hall of Fame, it will not be celebrated properly. That's why I think that. But you go ahead.
That's valid. I really have no pushback to that. Like, that's valid. For your thing, you have to keep in mind the real life implications. Like, I understand the positioning of saying there's people more deserving, but people reject, not turn down, reject being inducted into the Hall of Fame with regularity every year. So, like,
in multiple sports.
So the real life issues behind the scenes or perceived issues is what leads to an Edge and a Rey Mysterio going into the Hall of Fame, because they literally don't have anybody else.
So, another thing, is he a front runner? Sorry, that's another question. Is he a first ballot? Should be the guy they are highlighting for the Hall of Fame?
Yes,
Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, Rey Mysterio should be the Hall of Fame class headliner of his class, and I think he was.
His resume warrants it. Triple Crown champion, Grand Slam champion, won both sets of tag team champion. It's a particular style of Grand Slam champion where he also has a cruiserweight belt, Royal Rumble win.
Yeah, I think the only thing he didn't do was King of the Ring and Money in the Bank.
Yes.
The one thing, and this has to do with politics and real life, and I totally understand that. When I've seen WWE stack a Hall of Fame to where someone, in my opinion, should be a front runner is not a front runner. They may be the third person on that card. And there are some people who, in my opinion, shouldn't be a front runner at all, and they end up being a front runner. No offense to this man, because I praise the ground he walks on for his heel work. Ted DiBiase being one of those guys who was a front runner, in my opinion.
Like he headlined his class?
He headlined his class. Shouldn't have happened. Again, politics play into that. Randy Savage was third on his Hall of Fame card, and Kevin Nash was one.
Yeah, Kevin Nash should not.
Kevin Nash should absolutely be like two. There's nothing wrong with that.
Here's the deal. If we want to be unbiased for a second, Kevin Nash has like the second or third, I believe third longest title reign ever. He certainly is a headlining Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Like, Kevin Nash does deserve that if we're being unbiased. Granted, I think the walk from backstage to the podium, his quads will give out. But I digress. You can hate Kevin Nash all you want. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Based off of accolade, do I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer talent in the ring? No, but he has enough accolades, or at least one major enough accolade to warrant that.
Regardless, if Randy Savage is deceased,
yeah,
do you think he should be behind Kevin Nash in that ranking?
They should have just been in different classes.
I agree completely.
I think because I do also agree Randy Savage should headline.
Randy Savage, unbiased. Randy Savage not only would never headline a class, regardless of when he passed.
Yeah.
Because of real life stuff. He also wouldn't headline because he doesn't have a headlining resume. This is Randy Savage. This is Randy Savage's WWE/WWF accomplishments. One-time Intercontinental Champion, two-time World Heavyweight Champion, a King of the Ring, a championship tournament. That's it.
My opinion, those go farther than most of the WWE superstars for what he was able to do.
Here's what I would also say, based off of how this timeline of wrestling worked out. What was his WCW accomplishment?
His WCW accomplishments: four-time WCW World Heavyweight Champion, I don't know if this is WCW's equivalent of King of the Ring, but he won World War III in 1995.
The world,
That's
no,
a
it's
good-
not King of the Ring, but
No, it's like a 60. There are
it's-
3 rings. There are 20 people in each ring. They have
Yeah.
a battle royal.
Oh, that sounds
It's-
stupid as shit. And he won the World Cup of Wrestling in 1995.
yeah. So my point is, if Sting can get in on WCW accolades, then when
As
you
a freaking headliner, especially.
then when you take Randy Savage WWF plus Randy Savage WCW, that's 6 world title runs, and that's however many other accolades around it. Like, that's a first ballot to me.
Well, yeah, first ballot, but I think Eddie's point of contention is
Yeah.
Randy being the feature
Oh yeah.
of the Hall of Fame class, and I'm saying he doesn't have either thing for it, the real life stuff or the actual accomplishments as Vincent Kennedy McMahon cares about it.
Well, first off, if you, and this is true the other way, but I'm gonna say it this way: if you put Randy Savage with the right other people around him, of course he's first ballot.
Yeah.
But if you also put him around other people, then he's like 4th or 5th in line. Like, that's true both ways. There is a version of his Hall of Fame class that allows him to be first ballot, and I think he should have gotten that. I think he deserved to be put in a class where everyone else was kind of, say, Sergeant Slaughter level.
He could headline a week class, is what you're saying.
Yes, 100%.
I think the ability to innovate and be in pop culture has to play into that as well. And especially with the time we're in, it is such an important thing, how we look at how people look. And unfortunately for, I guess, that, wrong place, wrong time, but now everyone doesn't shut up about Randy Savage. He's just what he did for not even wrestling, but pop culture alone.
Yeah, just what he did for Slim Jims was insane.
What he did for Slim Jims, what he did for, honestly, I could go on and on for that about that, actually.
Clayton just sat there in a Macho Man Randy Savage t-shirt and said,
No, I said he doesn't deserve to headline a class. Anybody that has name value right now in 2023, from the late 1990s, early, late 1980s, early, late 1970s at a max,
yeah,
deserves to headline a Hall of Fame class. I'm just saying, for what the Hall of Fame is right now, he had no shot. Like, even a weak class, he has no shot because they don't have enough stuff that they can highlight for him. Ted DiBiase, when he went in, obviously he didn't have any championships, but they sure as hell referenced every wrestler that he managed.
Yeah.
To say, hey, he had his fingerprints here, and here.
Yeah.
You don't have that with Randy. Now, I would sit here and argue in a Macho Man Randy Savage t-shirt that if Ultimate Warrior could just be a
That's what I was
functional,
just about to
could be a
freaking
functional human being from the early 90s to the end of the 90s, so basically the 1990 decade, if he could be a functional human being, Randy Savage would have a much greater case because that was clearly where things were going.
Yeah, 100%.
If it wasn't for Ultimate Warrior, fun fact, if it wasn't for Ultimate Warrior, Jake the Snake Roberts would have a WWF title.
100%.
Yeah.
If Jake the Snake Roberts, not to go off on a tangent before we segue to something else.
Yeah, I just
if
want to
Jake the Snake Roberts wasn't the father of the DDT,
no one talks about him.
Well, okay. The snake thing.
Not just not talks about him. Nobody cares about him. Like, I do not understand Jake the Snake Roberts hype. He was just he was a segue to get a Stone Cold Steve Austin, and that's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, here's what, and I don't blame you for this because I know you've gone on record and saying you did not watch wrestling in the 90s and also have not gone back and watched it. The one piece that you're forgetting about why you don't understand it, Jake the Snake Roberts, though not that accomplished, was, for at least that entire first half of the decade, I would say 90 to 96, was more over than 90% of the roster.
Absolutely.
That was it. He was over. That's the difference. He the amount of people that had Jake the Snake merch, including t-shirts and a pet Damien, that was the name of his snake, Damien. Like they had a plush of it, they sold it. Like that's the difference, is that while on paper he did not necessarily have the best Hall of Fame career accomplishment wise, he was a draw and he was super over. He made that company so much money.
I want to say one other thing about that. When The Undertaker got to the WWF, Jimmy Snuka and him had their first match at WrestleMania. Completely flopped. Coked up Jimmy Snuka didn't help him at all.
Yeah.
Next year, Undertaker and Jake the Snake Roberts are hounding Miss Elizabeth, Randy Savage, like doing this whole angle. Jake the Snake Roberts ends up being the bad guy going into WrestleMania with The Undertaker. Jake the Snake Roberts put him over so fucking well.
Yeah.
And helped to build that. And that's where Vince McMahon's like, I think we can fucking do something with this, and helped that a ton too. So you could make the argument, I'm not saying this completely like, oh, he's the absolute reason, but he was one of the helping factors in why The Undertaker had that big run at WrestleMania.
So what you do have described to me is somebody who was just not a segue for only the launch of Stone Cold Steve Austin, but also The Undertaker.
Yes.
Cool, fine. But you know who you just described to me? The Miz without today's social media.
Yeah, I mean, I would give you that, but
like I'm fine with him being over. Like I'm fine with that being a part of the makeup.
Yeah,
but it's sports entertainment.
Yeah.
What you do in the ring matters.
Let me ask you this, and I'm asking this because I don't know the answer and I want to know the answer.
Mm-hmm.
How many Jake the Snake Roberts matches have you watched bell to bell?
Bell to bell, 3.
Which ones?
One he's referencing, Stone Cold, Jake the Snake at the King of the Ring tournament.
Okay.
And
Jake and Andre?
No. I actually didn't like Andre the Giant as a wrestler. I understand his significance in the world of wrestling. Like, we don't have it what it is today without Andre the Giant.
Yeah. That's actually a pretty comparable,
I'd agree with
raw
that
versus
statement.
skill thing.
Andre the Giant waddled so Big Show could run. And I love Big Show as a wrestler. So make of that what you will.
My point though is that
I can't think of the third. I want to say it's Jake and Brett, but I'm not sure.
My point though is I don't think you've seen enough Jake the Snake Roberts matches to truly understand that he was also good.
He was so clean with
That
his clotheslines.
He was, as I would argue, and there are people that are probably gonna disagree, I would argue he was at least 90% or more as technical as Bret Hart in the ring.
I agree with that. Absolutely do.
He was
so like everything he did was so like what Bret does with his follow throughs and everything, so clean, and he did the exact same crap.
Like,
I know you don't understand the hype with it, and kind of understandable for his accomplishments, but I was a big fan of him as a wrestler. Now he was double headlined in his class with the Ultimate Warrior, believe it or fucking not. And there was some more stuff in Dark Side of the Ring about that. And
look, here's the deal. I didn't expect this episode for me to have to go to bat for Jake the Snake Roberts, but I'm just gonna cut it clean and bring us back.
Yeah, totally.
Totally.
To our original point,
Jake the Snake Roberts is a Holocaust denier. Continue.
Shut.
Okay.
Is that true?
No, he's not.
I don't think that's true.
You ask me that every time I say it.
Yeah.
It eventually will be true. I don't think it's true this time.
Look, AJ Styles is a flat earther, so it's
That's
fine.
unfortunately
he
true.
looks like a flat earther.
Anyways, I'm bringing us back. Between everything that happened with Austin Theory and Rey Mysterio, I think ultimately to make the comparison that I think we originally wanted to make, Rey Mysterio, in my opinion, was too early in the Hall of Fame, the same way that, in my opinion, Edge was too early in the Hall of Fame. Granted, I don't disagree with their decision to put Edge in the Hall of Fame because he was medically disqualified, and that lasted for a decade, basically. So that it was believable enough that he would never get back in the ring. But the reason why I was concerned about it and thought it was too early was because I was afraid the same thing was going to happen to Daniel Bryan. When he medically had
I-
to retire, I 100% said, "Oh, cool. So he's going to headline the Hall of Fame next year."
What I thought.
Like, and I was afraid of that because I understood that we were starting to get to a place where Never Say Never was true. And while I was probably too early, in the back of my head, I always thought Edge might have one more match. And now he's had 4 additional years of his career that will never get referenced in a Hall of Fame speech because he's already in it. And again, my original point, your penultimate moment as a pro wrestler should be your Hall of Fame speech. That's when you should get to talk about everything.
So let me ask you this though, because you have essentially Ray and Edge on the same linear path, right?
Adjacent. I wouldn't say the same.
Adjacent paths.
Yeah.
Fine. Would the last 4 years of Edge's career, if he wasn't in the Hall of Fame, need to be referenced? Because he had, let me be clear.
Yeah.
He had good matches.
Yeah.
Not taking that away.
He had
but
the best professional wrestling match ever, actually, with Randy Orton.
But he didn't win anything new.
So that is
Ray did. I understand what you're saying, but if I'm looking at like Edge and Ray, I'd view Ray's as worse because the Rey Mysterio US title win,
yeah.
while the WWE universe that we exist in currently is better than what it was a year, 3, 5, 7, 10 ago.
Yeah.
There are things that are specific to the WWE writing process, and Ray winning the US title is just poorly done. Like they could still do that, but the execution was poor, and it clearly makes, regardless of how the match itself is produced, the outcome clearly indicates this was like a 3rd or 4th tier story. That's why it wasn't done right.
To answer your original question, these 4 years probably would not have gotten referenced in that Hall of Fame speech, but I would argue, or not argue, I would pose the question, if Edge wasn't already in the Hall of Fame, would he have been booked to do more?
Yes.
So because that's my thing is, because here's the deal, right? When over these last 4 years, anytime Edge has put someone over, when he put over Roman Reigns, when he put over Daniel Bryan, when he put over the Judgment Day, it has always been under the guise of, you've just beat Hall of Famer Edge. Like, that's your rub. You beat Edge, the Hall of Famer. If he doesn't have that, then the only thing he has to put people over are titles after that.
Right.
So in place of you beat Edge, the Hall of Famer, would be you beat Edge, the Universal Champion. You beat Edge, the WWE. You beat Edge, the Intercontinental Champion. He could pull a John Cena and have another mid-card run amongst his main event run when John Cena had that random 2016 US title run. Like, that's my point, is that if Edge isn't a Hall of Famer, then his rubs quite literally don't mean as much, which means they have to enhance it with titles. Might not even be main event titles. Could be US title, Intercontinental title. But I truly think he would have had more titles that could have been talked about.
He would have, his ceiling would have been assuming everything else in WWE plays out the same way. The only thing we're changing, that Edge is not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I think the Judgment Day stuff still happens.
I do too.
The exact way that it happens, with or without the Hall of Fame. But his ceiling is transitionally or having a decent US title reign, because Gunther was still going.
Actually, let's not forget that this 4-year run did include a Royal Rumble win and a WrestleMania main event. I actually do think we just overlooked that. Those all winning a Royal Rumble, because some people don't get that at all or only get one, and main eventing WrestleMania are certainly things that people are going to talk about in their Hall of Fame speech.
Yes. Yes, but it'll be talked about in the same vein that like Rey Mysterio's Royal Rumble win is talked about. Like,
Well, but my original point is it will not be talked about now. He's already in the Hall of Fame.
it doesn't need to be talked about because there was no storyline reason for him to win the Royal Rumble. But because he's coming back from 9 years off, we're going to ride that red hot streak. Just like Ray, and I'm not saying anything's wrong with this, rode Eddie's death into a Royal Rumble win and then a decent little world title reign.
Yeah.
Like, it's those are kind of the same win to me.
What about you, Eddie?
So, but kind of the way I think about it is, let's just say, perfect world, Edge doesn't ever get injured as badly as he did. I'm also thinking, how much longer would have gone? Because he definitely wouldn't be where, I don't, personally speaking, I don't think he would be as far as he is right now.
No, he would probably be retired. He would probably be retired
maybe 5,
I
6
think
years
he
ago.
would have rode off into the sunset around the time that Batista or John Cena did, and then come back and do almost like a 2017 Brock Lesnar schedule where he does just a couple of.
Right.
No, actually, I would say like an Undertaker schedule where he comes and gives someone the rub every once in a while. I think that he has that kind of career after. Let's see, he was forced to retire in 2011. I say 2015, 2016, he starts to fall off.
So in that time, I think he's an 11, if I'm not mistaken, 11-time world champion.
Right now, yes.
Yeah. So
I say he gets to like 14.
I based off how everything went, I'd say he may have even gotten 15 or 16. I'm going to be honest.
No.
That man, the way they booked him, even where he was when he got injured. In my opinion, the world titles after, I'll say, I think 2009, those were really just because they didn't have anyone to fill in that spot.
On SmackDown.
On SmackDown. They had Alberto Del Rio, not really the guy. Kane, honestly, not the guy. At that moment, not the guy. They tried to throw Rey Mysterio. They tried to throw Jack Swagger. They tried to throw a lot of people in that spotlight. Edge was the only person who could really do what a world heavyweight champion needed to do at that time. Do I think people would have beat him for that title around then? Yes, absolutely. I think he would have won it back more.
I think we also
have
to remember the people that were coming in at that time after 2011.
It took a while for that. Like Mark Henry, the way they booked him would have been the next person to really be the next big threat for the World Heavyweight Championship, and then the Big Show, and then all that.
There was all of that, but like you got to remember the next year Shield debuts. So it's Survivor Series. That was 2012,
right?
So like you have those three, right? You have Ambrose, Seth, and Roman, who it's going to take them a couple years to get to the main event. I think Seth Rollins wins the WWE title in 2014 or 2015, somewhere around there. On my timeline, Edge is still there, right?
Yes.
So he's going to go through Edge, just like The Rock, just like The Undertaker, just like John Cena. He's going to go through a Shield feud probably.
April 20.
Right? I think that's reasonable.
Right.
But I think that if you also take into consideration everyone who comes aboard during that 5 to 6 additional years, I think he probably doesn't get up to 15 or 16, but I do not think 11 is the. I think he gets to 12 or 13.
He totally wouldn't have won another Royal Rumble in my opinion.
No,
absolutely would not
he
have
does
happened.
not win another.
Probably wouldn't have main evented another WrestleMania in my opinion. I don't think
if
so.
he made it long enough to get to the 2 nights, he does.
So no shot. Edge exceeds Triple H's 13. No shot. And here's why it's no shot. Edge retired April 12th, 2011. As
day after my birth.
Standing world heavyweight champion. In order afterwards, Christian, Randy Orton, and they flipped it between them once. Mark Henry, Big Show, Sheamus, Big Show again, Del Rio, Ziggler, Del Rio, Cena, Orton, and then the belts were combined.
That was 2013.
Yes.
That's
so
2 years
between
worth.
2011 and 2013, the only thing, like the only person I could see Edge's like reign replacing is you take Christian's 2 reigns, and that's one more reign for Edge. Because Christian doesn't get the world title without.
100%. If Edge doesn't get forced to retire and drop the belt, Christian doesn't get a world title. And as a Christian fan, I reckon.
It's also just a really like the weird scenario, and I won't continue too much on this topic because I know we have more to cover. I just think Edge, for what he needed to do and the time and place he was in from in 2005 to, I'll say 2009, that was perfect for him. Those were his years. He was the perfect heel.
Like the core of the
time.
Rated R Superstar.
Yeah, core of the Rated R Superstar did everything the way it should have been done. 2010 comes along. That's kind of...
Is that when he turns face?
Yeah, and I didn't... Face Edge is cool, but like it's not... It brought his relevance down. Then they tried to turn him heel again against Orton, but everyone was over for him now. And they're like, okay, why'd you do this? So on and so forth. I think his significance could have gotten better, but if he retired now with what he has, I don't even know if he mentions the Royal Rumble win, if I'm going to be honest. I think if he would have done more through that time frame and he never got injured, that would have been something to talk about. I think there would have been more really good matches, and I'm pretty sure in his speech he didn't talk about anything that happened those last couple years either.
Well, because for me, it's not... If you look at Edge specifically, yes, that Royal Rumble win and that WrestleMania main event might not make it into his speech. But my point is, those are Hall of Fame speech worthy accolades. Anyone else who isn't Edge talks about those things. You know what I mean? Like not everyone gets to do those things.
Right.
You have to recognize the privilege you've been given to have those things, and the best way to recognize that is to mention them in your Hall of Fame speech.
Right.
In my opinion. But speaking of things that Edge did, we do have everything going on with the Judgment Day right now, and more specifically with JD McDonough and how he's been interacting with the Judgment Day lately. Now, I know that storyline started and then got dropped when Vince McMahon came back, but now that he's on medical leave,
getting served warrants.
Yeah, Triple H has immediately began resuming all storylines he had in place, including JD McDonough's involvement with, I'll say, Finn Balor, as opposed to the Judgment Day, because it really is kind of like a 1-to-1 deal right now with those two. So I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on everything going on with the Judgment Day and JD McDonough right now.
I like JD McDonough a lot, just based off of NXT UK. He's a very good wrestler. Not very many people watched NXT UK, and NXT had some pretty good matches. I think putting him with Finn makes the most sense, and I think he will go in, but the way they are displaying it, someone's got to go out. If he
You think there's not enough room for all of them?
In this case, no. Based off the way Damian Priest is interacting with him, yada yada. I may be completely reading it wrong. And there's not, that could happen where he joins. But I feel like it is either going to lead to JD McDonough getting turned on by Priest, and just that doesn't happen, or Finn Balor gets kicked out and somehow JD McDonough enters the fray. I think that is totally possible.
That one would be weird for me.
That'd be very weird. But at the same time, Finn will crap. Like, he's helping Damian Priest, he's helping Dami, he's helping Mommy. What about him?
I mean, I think at this point, because independent of the JD McDonough thing and going on with Finn Balor, we see Damian Priest doing multiple things, either on accident or on purpose. We're being sold either way, that are specifically actions taken against Finn Balor. I mean, when you look at the title match where he slid the briefcase and it happened to go between Finn's, or it wasn't a title match, but it went between his legs and went into Cody Rhodes' hands.
Means he needs to retire.
Who needs to retire?
Man doesn't have hand-eye coordination to catch a briefcase.
Okay, yeah. but that's my point though, is like we're being led to believe that there's tension between Finn and Damian, and we have to see how JD fits into that, because technically Finn, while he is the pseudo leader of the Judgment Day, was the last member in, right? Like it was Rhea, then it was Damian and Edge. They were, well, I guess technically
No,
they
Dami.
invited Dom, but
Yeah.
but you know what I mean? Like when you look at Rhea and Damian, I kind of remember them as the core piece of it that betrayed Edge to add Finn.
Right.
So I think they will stick together the hardest, and whatever Mommy does, we know Dami does.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that I see Rhea and Dom accepting a replacement of JD McDonough for Damian.
That's why I think it's, well,
They will if there's a blow-off match for control of the Judgment Day at Survivor Series between Finn and Damian Priest in, say, I don't know, a last man standing match.
Is that what they're
do
booking
brands
towards?
just not matter? Do brands just not matter at all anymore? I want to.
No, that they came out and said. Well, WWE didn't come out and say that, but sources within WWE came out and said basically the brand split's already done.
So it's,
If you're over Eddie, you're going to show up in both shows.
I know.
Yeah.
And oh my
I
God.
don't care personally about JD McDonough until the Damian and Finn piece of it is decided. I think that's
agree.
what it's built into, because all JD McDonough is really, if you're really being honest, JD McDonough is just a male Zoe Stark right now.
Yeah.
Right now he has more potential to do more and be in a bigger spotlight at this point with the Judgment Day.
Yeah.
With the Judgment Day.
Even with the Judgment Day.
I think
To get him, the performer, sure. Him actually within storyline as the Judgment Day is currently constructed, no.
Yeah, that does matter. Like how he
Oh.
meshes with the group.
Oh, totally. And I think, like, at the same time, they're in a perfect spot, in my opinion, to do this, like, title takeover thing. And I feel like, if I'm going to be brutally honest, the thing that makes the most sense, Priest would probably be world champ because he has the briefcase. I think that would mean world champion.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna fail his cash in. I think he'll get the title.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If we're looking at everything realistically in the title chasing sense, it's like totally not a guarantee that would happen. Finn and Jordan Devlin would probably tag title contenders at that point, but also the titles need to split and figure that out, and yada
They
yada.
either need to split or combine.
Combine.
Split or get a singular title so that
That'd be
we can
grand.
not be confused anymore.
I think as a whole for WWE right now, there is I don't want to put this. There is a storyline sickness with all factions except Street Profits.
because they're just starting.
Because they're just starting whatever there is with Bobby Lashley. Judgment Day has infighting. Bloodline has infighting. Imperium has infighting. I'm sorry, Alpha Academy and the Street Profits. Those are the only two unit factions that are like fine. But even then, they started planting seeds of, is Maxine gonna join Imperium?
Yeah, there's
Like, it's just every faction is having issues all at the same time, which then leads to when the faction,
yeah.
even more so than the Bloodline, when the faction shows up in the New Day, it's like a refreshing cup of water.
Yeah.
Like, all the factions can't have trouble all the time. I understand we need to make stuff happen from a storyline perspective.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's happening on both shows is dragging down the faction content for me.
Well, and we also have to remember that this time last year, the opposite was true too. Judgment Day had 0 issues, and Bloodline had 0 but minimal issues. The same, I think by now Sami Zayn even was accepted, and we were just starting to ride that out. Like the opposite was true last year. So I think that's why we're running into these issues, because they didn't stagger it by having one being healthy and one not and then flop it. You know what I mean? Like they're having all their factions be in the same status at the same time.
And the same type of status. Like it,
Yeah.
I love the product, but it also makes the product boring to me because I feel like I'm seeing the same story, just the pieces are slightly different
Yeah.
in each hour block of each show.
Like, if I'm gonna look at everything realistically, I want one. If I'm looking at anything with the Judgment Day that needs to change, Rhea Ripley needs to do
She needs to
fucking
do something.
anything. Like, she's doing stuff on NXT, but not on the main roster where she should be doing something.
Where she's the champion of a show.
Yeah, where she's the champion of a show and has the potential to be honestly, if we're going to be honest, she's the most over champion. She ain't even freaking doing anything. So she's the most over women's champion right now.
I don't know. Did you see EO's reaction last night on SmackDown? EO is pretty over. I think if you said that pre-SummerSlam when Asuka was champion,
yeah,
100%. But I think EO is over now.
She's not more over than Rhea.
I don't agree.
I don't know what he's talking.
You can get a big pop from an audience for EO. I would pop for EO. I like EO more than Rhea personally.
I wasn't necessarily saying she was more over than Rhea, but the way that you described it made it sound like EO wasn't over at all. And I'm like, that's not true.
I don't think EO's not over at all. I think EO is totally over. I think Rhea doesn't have to do anything to be over, but that's not the point of her being the champion.
That won't last long. Ask Charlotte Flair. That doing nothing for too long will make you hated quickly.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though, specifically as it pertains to Charlotte. Rhea's still doing shit. She's just not doing anything pertaining to her title.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
Charlotte just leaves for 3.
Charlotte leaves, comes back. Rhea's putting people through tables on NXT. Mm-hmm. So Rhea is as dominant of a champion as you can look without really doing anything with your belt. And to your guys' point, that kind of needs to change. It would, whatever build you're going to start having to 40, that needs to change.
Yeah. But just to kind of take us through the last thing that we wanted to talk about, kind of segueing out of the bloodline part of this, Jey Uso quits WWE. We have a what I would say is maybe a fresh new angle in that someone just quit. Like, for the love of their family, they quit this company. Like, how do we feel about Jey Uso sued? Like, I assume it's a work, but how do we feel about Jey Uso quitting WWE as a storyline?
I think it does give us hopefully something new. Like, even if it is Jimmy in this case, we don't see Jimmy.
Because what does Jimmy do with that? Because we were this is why I actually appreciated this swerve, if you will. The second Jimmy showed up at SummerSlam and did that, and then they started talking the following week, we were like, okay, cool. Jimmy versus Jay, that's the next feud. And then Jay just dips.
Mm-hmm.
So what is Jimmy going to do now?
I think Jimmy there's going to be build up for Roman and Jimmy. I do think that could happen. And then I think maybe that does build up into SummerSlam, because the reason I wanted to ask about the brand thing is because I don't see traditional stuff happening at this point.
They're not going to do a Raw versus...
Yeah, I don't see that happening. That could lead to Jimmy and Roman. Same thing. This is potential. I don't know. Maybe we can get something brand spanking new, which would be cool. Someone deserves that spotlight, or someone could get in that spotlight and do something pretty good with it. I think that the same thing, if not with Roman, with someone else, maybe Solo, maybe something of that nature could happen where Jay may do the same thing. If I think Jay, super kicking through Jimmy, put a lot on the table because he didn't care who was in his path. He was going to kick someone's ass. Yeah, and I think
someone
that's
was
great.
Getting hit.
That is great for his character. And I think him quitting, getting that aggression out on Jimmy in that moment, good. Then quitting, being like, I'm out. I'm not going to keep doing this. I think he'll realize in coming weeks what happened with Jimmy in this, maybe getting to his head too much, comes back, builds that up into what they need. Because they do need a feud. That can't just get
Jimmy and Jay.
Yeah,
they will feud eventually.
Yeah, they can't just get swept away for a while. That either has to comes sometime soon, or that's perfect for WrestleMania.
So I guess that begs the question, though: when does Jay come back? When do we get Jay Uso back from this quit?
Here's the thing. For me.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah, we know you don't care. You care about anything.
No, that's not true. I care about a lot of stuff. I don't care about this specifically as it pertains to the bloodline, because the bloodline story that's in the bottom of the third inning to this point has indicated storyline wise anything that is not pertaining to Roman Reigns doesn't matter.
I agree.
Even like keeping the behind the scenes desired plans for Jay and Jimmy out of it, it doesn't matter when Jay comes back. When Jay comes back, he's gonna feud with Jimmy. But if he comes back in, honestly, less than 3 months, this is further evidence this doesn't matter.
3 months, that's a long time.
Follow-up question. How long have you felt what's happening with the bloodline, if it's not associated with Roman, doesn't matter? How long have you kind of felt like that?
It started at Elimination Chamber, because everybody knew going in Sammy wasn't winning.
Yeah.
Sammy wasn't winning because Roman and Cody is the match.
But do you not think the significance of, I know the aftermath honestly doesn't matter, but the significance of Sammy and Kevin beating the Usos?
That
Do you
mattered.
think, yeah.
That mattered as a vehicle to get us to this post-WrestleMania situation with the bloodline. Like, it mattered in the sense of creating storyline friction between Roman and the Usos that was already building. It just provided the catalyst. That match has significance. Jimmy and Jay's match, whenever it happens, and the speculation is that it's wanted for 40.
Right.
That doesn't matter. It just doesn't. They haven't done enough to make it matter. You texted me calling that Jimmy was going to turn. You had it in the back of your mind that Jimmy was going to turn. I don't care, because that's how they've structured the storyline. Because tribal combat is one-on-one with no interferences,
And then everyone.
and then it's the same story. And the additional reason why it doesn't matter is, I again don't care when Jay comes back, because they're going to do Jay Jimmy at a PLE. What does Roman do between now and Royal Rumble? He's not feuding with Solo. But I think we all agree Roman's holding that belt till 40.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think anyone thinks that he's not. I think that's a natural.
So what does Roman do?
Well, I think that, kind of to your point, Jay versus Jimmy matters in a sense of how does the follow through and the fallout of that affect Roman. That's where that will matter, because to your point, Roman's a centerpiece to this storyline. If it doesn't directly involve him, it kind of doesn't matter. This indirectly does involve him, because the whole reason they're fighting in the first place is because of Roman, and the fallout of it, one of two things is going to happen. Either they will continue to feud, but one of them will join Roman, and then the other one will have to make their own faction, and it becomes a whole thing. Or they hug it out at the end and go back after Roman, and this time no one stops any. I think those are the two natural progressions that you have after that match. One of those two things will likely happen.
I just had an epiphany.
Yeah?
Kind of over it.
Yeah,
No, I'm over it.
I'm over the bloodline story too. That's not true. I'm not over the bloodline story. I'm over the bloodline story pigeonholing a title that it doesn't need. I think I said it before. All things happen exactly the way that it happens now, except Cody does win the belt at WrestleMania when he should have. Nothing changes.
I think I'm over these Superman-esque kickouts, which I thought was...
No one should kick out of a spike and a spear that happens at the same time. And you argued me on that once.
I did argue you with that.
It should not happen. That is insane.
I think for the storyline, it meant something. And I still think that. But now I'm like, I just decided if the camera caught it, I was just sitting here like just analyzing everything in my head. I'm like, now I'm looking at everything. I'm like, what? I'm totally with this. Until Survivor Series or Royal Rumble, what does Roman do? Like, actually,
Like, realistically,
Nothing.
with Jay gone, they're going to tease some more infighting between Roman and Solo, because I think to get to the 40 match, Roman will be all alone.
right?
Yeah.
And that's why he loses.
Yeah, between now and then, everyone is gone. So you have to find a way to
he's
make
gonna
that
have
happen.
a mini feud with Solo that I don't care about, because Solo's not coming out on top of that feud. But realistically, between now and Royal Rumble, all I could see Roman doing outside of a John Cena versus R-Truth for the WWE Championship type program. Outside of that type of program, the only other thing I realistically see Roman doing is you have your little infighting stuff with Solo, but then with Jimmy, because Jimmy has to be there to make the stuff with Jay later matter. What you're going to see between Roman and Jimmy should be in the same vein as JBL and Shawn Michaels from the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Like that, where
could see that.
Roman's just making Jimmy the whipping boy for
Yeah.
everything, making him do every little meticulous thing, make it basically robbing him of his manhood, to use a phrase. And then Jay comes back, but then Jimmy and Jay still have their thing, and then they make up, go after Roman. But that's all I can see Roman doing between now and Royal Rumble.
BBL. All right. Any other final thoughts before we jump out of here, gentlemen?
I'm just I just want to get to the point where we can see someone that I'll even one up it. I will be excited if no one from the bloodline is competing for that world title. I'm looking forward to that moment.
The next non-bloodline Roman Reigns feud.
And if he beats Cody at 40,
If he beats Cody at 40, I'm saying it right now. Look me in my eyes. Roman Reigns beats Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 40 and leaves with the title, and I'm saying that in case something crazy happens where he still is champion afterwards. If those two things happen, Roman beats Cody, Roman leaves with the belt, I'm not watching WWE someone else. I'm out.
it's gonna be a dry time for you.
I'm
then.
done.
He's going for Bruno's record at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm good.
I'm great, dude. He hit 1,000. Let's just
Dude, have him get second place. There's nothing wrong with second place when you have an unreasonable first place.
Whatever it costs to have him past all of Hulk Hogan, because they want to bury Hulk Hogan, as they should.
Yeah.
And then there's just, as I say on this podcast, as I say in our interpersonal life, there's a not 0% chance. I think however, I will say, if Roman Cody happens at 40 and Roman goes over, Roman will not break Bruno Sammartino's record,
Which will make that pointless. That will not matter.
yeah. It
If he does,
absolutely will
there's
not
no
matter.
reason for him to get somewhere between second and first. But like if he doesn't hit 2,000 days, it doesn't matter. It's stupid. But all right, I think we'll call it there.
Eddie, hit us with the socials that you never hit us with at the beginning of the episode.
Because that'd be ridiculous.
Yeah, I forgot to.
All right. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. Make sure to tune in with us each and every week on Spotify and Apple Music.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Clayton, for sitting down and joining me. I have been Randy. This has been the Two of Me Wrestling Podcast. Thanks for listening and watching, and we will see you soon, guys. Thank you.